This video was made possible by EA Game Changers. Hello there everybody, it is me XfreezerBunny and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. So today we are doing a Cottagecore inspired build. Now this is my early access build for Paranormal, and I know the pack is supposed to have a spooky haunted theme, but for some reason this style just came into my mind when I was checking out the items when I got early access to the pack a couple of days ago. So this is the style that I ended up going with. For those of you who do not know, Cottagecore is a trend I believe that originated from TikTok or from some social media website, but it's basically a romanticized, idealized version of the Western country and farm life. And I don't know about you guys, but I am so ready for a Cottagecore themed farming stuff pack, game pack, expansion pack. I'm so ready. I think the community has been asking for something like this for a while now, and I think it would be in EA's best interest to actually consider that, because I know Cottagecore and Hygge, the style that they went with for Tiny Living, were trends that originated from social media. So who knows, maybe they are planning to make a pack just like that in the future. But that being said, I'm so excited to show you guys this pack. When it was first announced, I was not interested in it whatsoever, but I'm glad I signed up for the early access, because when I saw the items that came with this pack, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I'm gonna start off with Create a Sim, and honestly, Create a Sim is stunning. It is gorgeous. We got a lot of clothing items that I've never seen before. One of them is that outfit that you can see my sim wearing. It's one of my favorite garments in game. I love the floral pattern. It is giving me major kind of Cottagecore running in the fields vibe, if you guys get what I mean. So I really love it. I think I like the women's wear more than the men's wear, because I noticed that for the men we did get a lot of vintage looking outfits, which is great, but I was just blown away when I saw all of the new outfits for the women. So A+ for Create a Sim. As for the build buy mode items, we didn't get a lot of build items necessarily, but the buy mode is absolutely stunning as well. I've already posted some preview images of this build on my social media a couple of days ago, and people were crazy about the new sofa, and I totally agree. I think the sofa, the lounge chair, as well as the dining chairs are probably two of my favorite items from this pack. I haven't really gotten into the gameplay yet, so I couldn't really comment on that, but based on what I've seen from the build buy mode as well as Create a Sim, I would totally get this. I would totally get this pack. And if you're into this kind of style, as you can see, the pack has a very versatile style overall. So I think you could take it into a more modern or a more traditional route. You can go for a more fantasy or a more realistic vibe. As you all know, I do prefer to take my builds in a more realistic light, I guess. So yeah, this is what I came up with, and hopefully you enjoy it. Let me know if you enjoy these kinds of builds. This house itself ended up being quite small. It's only a 1-bedroom cottage, mainly more of like a gardening home, I guess, because that's kind of like the main focus for the character I built this on. But I have an idea for another Cottagecore build. I think I would like to do a farmhouse at some point, because I realized after doing this build that one of the simmers that I know, Kalino, also mentioned her in my previous build, surprisingly. She has these sets of animals that are basically farm animals that are actually just cats and dogs, but she made them look like cows and, you know, horses and farm animals, basically goats and sheep and all of that. So I don't know, maybe I can use those to make a farm build. Let me know if you would like to see that. But this style is definitely a departure from what I've been doing recently, which tends to be more Asian focused for my builds, which is fine. I like having some variety when it comes to my builds. I don't really have a particular style. I just go for whatever interests me, and this is the one that I was really, you know, intrigued by when I saw it on social media. There's also a similar style that originated in Korea. It's called Neutro. There we go. It's really funny that I'm bringing this up, but a lot of the clothing that came with the pack kind of also falls into that Neutro style. And I only know about this style because I watched Crash Landing on You. Yeah, it's been a while since I've last watched a Korean drama, but that show got me back into Korean dramas. I watched it last year, by the way, so it's a really, really good show. I think I stopped watching Korean dramas because they kind of were all the same at some point. You know, the story was predictable, but Crash Landing had a very interesting premise. Basically, the show takes place in North and South Korea, and it's really interesting to see the contrast of how people live. But basically, one of the characters gets stuck in North Korea, and because the technology in North Korea isn't as developed as the South, they have a lot of like retro technology, retro fashions. It's really, really interesting, and I am definitely going to have to consider doing a build for that as well in the future. So yeah, so many ideas just throwing it out there, but let me know if which one of them you want to see first. Yeah, I definitely take your guys' feedback, and one of the feedbacks that I am going to talk about in this build is actually in my last video. In case you didn't notice, the audio for that was a bit less processed. Basically, I just used the raw audio recording for that video because I noticed that it sounded a lot better when I was listening to it on a speaker. But I think I'm gonna go back to my usual way of recording audio, which is processing it a little bit to remove the noise and also increase the volume and compress it and all of that stuff, because I do edit the audio in Audacity just to make it more clearer and, you know, just make it better to listen to in general. But I just tested it out to see how you guys would react, and I got some mixed reactions, which basically means that I think I'm better off with the older audio, because I don't know which device you guys are listening to, because the older audio, the way I usually do my audio, is I think better for people listening on a headset. But yeah, the raw audio I think sounds a little bit better on speaker because it's a bit louder. So it doesn't get drowned out by the background music. So yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those, technical stuff that never really get to talk about. Let me know if you want to hear more about those. But also, just a quick life update. I've already mentioned this on Twitter, but I am currently reading the 5th volume of Death Note, and I've just recently finished reading volume 4, and oh boy, it is getting intense, you guys. Like, I can't really talk much without giving spoiler, but it's starting to get intense, and a lot of people are really excited to know more about my thoughts on the story, because I'm kind of late to the party when it comes to Death Note, to be honest. I did not watch the anime. I just saw the box set a couple of weeks back, and I was like, you know what, I kind of want to get back into reading manga, so let me just get this and see, you know, how it turns out. And of course I had to get one of the most acclaimed manga series of all time. By the way, I've been talking about this so much in my recent videos. In case you don't know, manga are basically Japanese graphic novels. They're basically comic books. Oh my gosh, I feel like I just offended people by saying that manga are comic books, but yeah, they're basically graphic novels. I do prefer reading them over just regular novels because I do like reading books with visuals. But yeah, like I said, Death Note is getting intense, but I hope it gets better soon. I will say though that I have seen the Death Note movie when I was in college. I don't think I mentioned this when I first talked about Death Note a couple of videos ago, but interestingly enough, I watched Death Note not because I wanted to, it was because I was required to watch it by one of my political science professors. For those of you guys who went to Benilde, you'd probably know this professor. She's really into Harry Potter, and she somehow gave us this assignment to watch the 2 Death Note movies, the live action movies. Like, literally coolest prof ever. Yeah, I did not regret it whatsoever, by the way. I enjoyed the movie. I'm beginning to see some differences with the movie and the manga because of course it's a different medium, so I'm glad that I saw the movie, not the anime, and I'm really enjoying the manga so far. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So I do want to take a second to talk about this bedroom because I love it. I was a bit disappointed that we didn't get a bed with the pack, so I had to improvise by using those benches that came with cats and dogs, and I basically sandwiched the bed that came with Eco Lifestyle. And it looks really good. It looks like a nice country, you know, bed. I really love the rustic vibe, but it still feels kind of contemporary as well with all of the, you know, decorations, knickknacks, and all of that stuff. Also, this wallpaper that came with the pack is so stunning. That color is so Bridgerton. Like, I have not talked about this in a build before, but yeah, I did watch Bridgerton when it came out on Netflix and I really enjoyed it. I would like to make a build for it eventually when I find the time, but I have so much I want to do. But yeah, also, one of the things that I really enjoyed, another thing that I really enjoyed with this pack are the plants, actually. There's a couple of really nice plants that came with this pack, and you can see me use a bunch of them in this build. I had to repeat the plants. I don't know why, but I feel like this is kind of an unspoken rule where, you know, people don't like it when simmers repeat using items in multiple rooms of the house. I got, you know, negative comments about repeating items before. As you know, for those of you who've been here for a while now, I don't really care, to be honest. I just use the items whichever way I want to. So yeah, but I think one of the plants I used maybe 3 or 4 times in this build. I thought that some of you guys might be interested to know my insights about that. For the outside, I got indecisive about the exterior color. Like, it's such a small difference, but I did change the wallpaper from a more like dirty white stucco into this more yellowish looking stucco. By the way, if you just Google Cottagecore, I think you'll see the house that inspired this build because it's like the same house. For the garden, for the landscaping, I absolutely loved it. Super happy with how the landscaping turned out. I used a lot of debug items as well as a lot of flowers from Romantic Garden, which is a pack that I have not used in forever, but I'm really happy that I got to use it now again. And I feel like this pack gives this build a kind of, you know, European quality that you kind of expect from Cottagecore builds. I'm really happy with how the landscaping came together. I'm not gonna do all of it in this video because it's gonna make it take way too long, so I did have to edit out some of the parts where I did landscaping, in particular in the back, but I did want to show you guys how I did the landscaping here in front so you can have an idea on what it looks like basically. In case you can't tell, I definitely went for that more pastoral, kind of like country garden vibes, I guess. Lots of planter beds, lots of, you know, seasonal flowers as well. It's really funny because I started building this wanting to only use limited packs, but the more I got into it, the more packs I ended up using. So I think I ended up using like maybe 15 or 16 packs. I initially limited myself to maybe like 8 or 10 packs, but yeah, that didn't quite work out. As you can see over here, the planter bed to the back actually has some actual flowers that your sim can grow and your sim can basically harvest. I used some fall flowers, which are pretty nice, pretty beautiful, and yeah, hopefully you can see them. Hopefully they aren't too hard to see because I did bury them in a mountain of landscaping. And I also put a little beehive as well because I think that's what Cottagecore is all about. I think it's really about interacting with the earth and interacting with animals as well. And over here, just outside the kitchen area, I incorporated a little kind of like outdoor dining area. I put this umbrella from Snowy Escape. And yeah, I just rotated it using the tool mod on an angle just to give it that more of a, you know, laid back rustic vibe. And also this string light from, I believe this is from Kids Room stuff, right? Yeah, I also rotated it on an angle and just place it over there to make it look like it's hanging off of the roof basically. I really love that bohemian vibe that light gave off. But I think that's actually going to be it for this build, so hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know if you want to see more builds like this in the future. I definitely really enjoyed it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. You all have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.